Alright, training vlog number 13. So today's training vlog is about deadlifts. So I've just been doing deadlifts consistently the past while, and I suppose I've been getting a few questions from clients in the past months about deadlifts in general, and I just said I'd bring it to light here on my thoughts on deadlifts in general. Are they necessary? Are they something that need to be put in a program? And I suppose you can decide for yourself whether they're something you want to include. So deadlifts in general, very effective movement, working the whole body, very technical movement. There's a lot going into it. Risky if you're not doing it correctly. Hugely risky depending on, obviously, if you're loading the bar fairly heavy as well. It's obviously the more risk involved. You're compromising the back. You could, it cause serious injury. I'm sure you've probably seen videos on the internet of deadlifts gone wrong before, and people just jacking them up and doing them wrong, and it even looks painful with people doing them sometimes if they're not doing them correctly. Now, by all means, I'm not saying my deadlift form is perfect either, but I have decent understanding of deadlifts. I've lifted at an intermediate level for deadlifts for my body weight before. My 1 rep max back when I was 69 kilos was 170 kilos, so 2.3 times body weight. I'm not sure what I'd lift today because I haven't tried a 1 rep max going back to deadlifting. The reason for that is I suppose I don't really see the need for it. It's kind of a ego lifting thing if I go back to it now just to see how much I can lift, or for a 1 rep max, and the risk versus reward, it doesn't seem to justify it for me. And that's kind of what I echo with anybody who's considering doing deadlifts or any high risk movement that puts extreme pressure on you for the sake of just bumping numbers up. I'm sure you've probably seen that video that Larry Wheels put up, a lot of people have, of the fella doing the incline bench press a while back, and he completely tore his pec off the bone or off the tendon, and you can see how exercises can go wrong very quickly if you're just doing them for the sake of moving weight, and not actually having an end goal behind it that's justifiable by because that guy's life changed completely, and so many people that have done deadlifts for the sake of just moving a bit of weight, for a bit of ego, for a bit of credit among their friends or whatever. You can see how it can go very wrong very quickly, and then leave you with something that is can affect you for life, essentially. You lift even something wrong that isn't even a deadlift, but in that motion of a deadlift, that can be done wrong if you're doing it for a 1 rep max. So I would never advise deadlift for a 1 rep max, really. Maybe a 3 rep max would be more manageable, but at the same time, you have to justify it. But this is what I echo with clients. Anyone that has asked me about deadlifts before, can they include them in the program? Because I'm not mad about including them in the program myself, and the reason I say that is the risk versus reward. If you do a deadlift wrong, it can send you out for weeks with an injury, or even for life in some cases, and unless you're training to actually get better at deadlifts for a competition, for powerlifting, or you have some certain end goal that you want to improve in deadlifts overall for some justifiable reason, then I will include them, obviously. But you have to make it reasonable as to why you would actually want to include them, as opposed to you just want to lift a heavy deadlift just because you can say you do that. And that's kind of me bringing it back to conventional programming and things like you kind of want to be doing something for a reason, especially when you're putting your body under so much stress for one movement. And don't get me wrong, I'm not all against deadlifts. I've probably come across very negative on deadlifts. It is a hugely beneficial movement. It has so many benefits, and it's a very conventional movement if done correctly, and not completely overloading near the 1 rep max zone. If you can do it for lower 5x5s or something, or things on lower reps that you can actually manage, and if it's done correctly, then it'll actually be a hugely beneficial movement. Because you think of the deadlift movement, you're essentially picking something off the ground. You're squatting down into kind of a half squat, near full squat, and just going and lifting something off the ground, using your arms as levers and pressing through the heels. And if you're working in a very physical or labour job that's demanding of moving stuff around a good lot, you will be doing that movement a good lot of the time. And things like even elderly people to have that movement down for conventional things, like carrying groceries, you have to pick them up off the ground, bags of groceries, and carry them and then leave them down, pick them up again, and it's a very useful movement to be able to do and do correctly. Most jobs include a manual handling course. You'll have picked up how to basically do a deadlift, pick up a box or anything like that. So don't get me wrong, it is a hugely beneficial movement, and relating that back to programming, I'm thinking of how CrossFit put it in one of their documents is, regardless of whether your fitness goals are to quote unquote rev up your metabolism, increase strength or lean body mass, decrease body fat, rehabilitate your back, improve athletic performance, or maintain functional independence as a senior, the deadlift is marked a shortcut to that end. And that's true. Like including the deadlift in moderation, maybe twice a week, in your movements, can actually be beneficial when done right, when programmed right, to the right volume, and you're doing it correctly, of course. So I just kind of wanted to flesh out thoughts on this because, a lot of people just kind of include deadlifts because, you hear them as one of the three main conventional movements, a bench press, squat, deadlift, things like that. And it's such a popular movement. But, I would just say just be more mindful of why you're including it in your program. And if you're just doing deadlifts to just do a heavier deadlift, are you doing it for a competition, or are you just doing it for ego, or are you doing it to impress friends or things like that? And then consider whether it's actually worth it if you're not doing it to the right amount, if it's giving you back pains, if it's giving you trouble and it's impeding your performance in other lifts, things like that. And I would always say, if it is doing that but you do want to keep the deadlift in, recede back, go back into lighter weights and get the form right, and then build yourself back up again. There's nothing wrong with regressing and then progressing after that, because you'll actually have a stronger movement pattern in general, and that goes for any movement, your squats, your bench press, anything. You can always just regress the movement, get better at the form, and get good at it, activating the intended muscles, getting the functional movement pattern down, and then actually heading back into it and being much more functional at it as a whole. So yeah, just a few thoughts I wanted to throw out on deadlifting. Are they necessary for you? And a few things to consider. Hopefully you have a few thoughts over the deadlift, and pros versus cons, and weigh them up yourself, and whether it's something for you or whether you might want to leave them out of the program, of your programming altogether and training altogether, or whether you want to just prioritise them better. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for today's vlog, and catch you tomorrow.